Hi everyone, this is Gleb Bakhmutov, and today I want to show you how to browse slides at slides.com or Reveal.js. The slides where you can have multiple slides, you don't know how many there are, and you just keep pushing on the right button or right element until you reach the end. So here's how I set up the project. First, I make a new folder. Let's say browse, I initialize new Git repo, and I initialize new npm project with all the defaults. I then install Cypress and Prettier, as dev dependencies. Okay, so we have Cypress 8, Prettier 2, and then I copy the Prettier RC file from existing project, for example, grep. Okay, so what do I have right now? I have just package.json, node module, and a log file. Time to create a new Cypress project. So for this, I use my utility called Bakhmutov CLI init, and I will use bare, right? So I just need a single spec file, nothing else. Let's open VS Code and let's look at what we have. So we have Cypress folder with a single spec file initialized by Bakhmutov CLI. Let's bump the font a little bit. We have our Cypress JSON. We don't need any fixtures, plugins, support, nothing. The only thing I want to say is a base URL, and I will set it to what we're trying to browse. And inside the spec, I say it goes through all slides. And let's start by visiting the site. npx cypress open. To open Cypress, let's click on the spec file. Okay, so we have our slide. Now we want to push on this right arrow. So let's look at the markup. Elements, arrow is navigate right, and notice it has a class enabled, and this button left, even though it's there, doesn't have enabled. So we can push on this button all the way until we get to the last slide. In this case, it no longer has enabled. So you can kind of judge for yourself now that we're trying to push the button all the way until it doesn't have class enabled. So in order for us to do this, I already have written a utility called cypress-recurse. It's available on GitHub, cypress-recurse. Okay, so what do we need? We need to install it. Fine. So I will go to the same browse slides folder, and I will install it as a dev dependency. What else do we need? We have to just import it. Doesn't require any special initialization, so we'll just say import. And once we visit the site, we need to recurse. And what do we have to do? Well, recurse really takes only two arguments for most part. One is the action. What do you want to do? Well, you want to find this right arrow button. So I'll say first argument is a function, and it's I get navigation. I'll navigate right, I already forgot. Let's see again. So this is element, navigate right. So this is a Cypress chain of commands. So do this. And then the second is a predicate. It will receive whatever this result yields. So in this case, it will be a button jQuery element, and it should just return true or false. Should we stop navigating or not? So in this case, because this is jQuery, has class enabled in our case, and we should stop when that class is no longer there. So let's look how it runs. Okay. So right now, let's look at it again. Notice what it does. It actually tries getting it, still has class enabled, getting it, still has class enabled. Now, one thing that you might have noticed is that we're not actually doing it. We've never pressed the button. So how come? So in order for us to press the button, here's where we can use the options object. Everything else, aside from an action and a predicate, goes into the options object. So there is a method pause. If you want to get this button, check if it's predicate passing or not. And if not, before you iterate again and try it again, you can execute the post. And in this case, what do we do in a post? Well, we actually have to find this button and click on it. So let's take a look now. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, perfect. Notice how fast we actually iterate through everything. It's too fast, right? Let's slow it down a little bit. I think delay. So let's say 1 second, right? Now the maximum time has reached, right? We're navigating and we take about a second in between. And by default, every command in Cypress uses default command timeout of 4 seconds. So we want to say timeout, I don't know, let's say 200 seconds. Okay, so now this is much nicer. And we don't need all this logging, so I'll say log. Also notice when it clicks, it actually scrolls. So let's find the setting. Scroll. I forgot, so I'll go to configuration and I'll say scroll behavior. And right now can be false. So we don't want to scroll because the button is already visible. Okay, because we changed cypress.json, it restarted. Perfect. So we're going through all slides, but notice something else. If we look at all the slides, we have a vertical column of slides because this is Reveal.js. You can create slides dedicated to each topic and go into detail. So what we have to do, not only we have to go to the right, whenever there is a down arrow available, enabled, we have to go down. And going down is pretty much the same process, right? So we can take our code that we have written and we can make a separate function that just goes down the slides. So I'll say function go vertical. We're gonna take our code, and if you want to use recurse as part of another recurse chain, just return it. Okay, so in this case we don't navigate right, we navigate down. Same here. And now let's look at our recursion. So our recursion, the top level, has to combine going down and right. By default, in the vertical side, you go down first and then you go to the right if it's available. Okay, so every time before we're going right, we have to go down if it's available. So here's what we do. In our recursion, right, we'll say go vertical, okay, then go to the right. So let's see how this works. Go right. Now go down, down, go right, go right. So this is how you write a navigation utility that keeps trying, right, Cypress chain of commands until the predicate returns false, with additional parameters that can do things in between, like actually navigating to right or down, by using Cypress recursion to perform an action until predicate becomes false.